back to school. Well, not quite. Today, we're going to be learning about a subject. Now, I'm going to give you a hint and see if you can guess what I'm talking about. I'll give you a second to think about what in the world that could possibly be. You might be thinking, well, it's a box, or it's a rectangle, or quadrilateral. So, we're doing geometry. No, you've probably read the title and you've seen this thumbnail, so you know that we're doing subtraction. Two minus 1. 2 minus 1 equals 1. Boom. So, today we're going to be learning about math, subtraction. Subtraction, like division is to multiplication, is the opposite of adding. If you want to learn more about adding, go check out our other video on adding that we have done before, so you can get a handle on what kind of we're doing here. So anyways, when you're minusing something, instead of like adding where you're putting the two on top of each other, you're minusing where you're taking one value out of the other. So what I did how I explained adding was that you're putting the value of 2 and whatever the value of 1 is, and you're putting them together, which normally when you're adding would make a value of 3. But when you're minusing, so minusing is the difference between addition, where pretty much instead of, it's like Santa Claus gives. Santa Claus is addition. But then who takes? The bank. The bank takes, so the bank is subtraction. So Santa Claus, let's say you have one present. Now Santa Claus will make it so that you have Santa Claus, right here, this is going to be Santa Claus, and he'll give you one more present, so that way you'll have 2 presents. But this is the bank here, and let's say you have $1, but the bank decides to take away $1. So now you're left with $0. Now let me just classify here that the equal symbol is that way. It shows exactly that it's equal to that number. So the equal symbol, it doesn't show that that is the answer. It's not that. It's more complicated than that. It means that the two things on either side of it are the same thing. So 1 minus 1 is 0, which is also 0. So it's not actually an answer, it's an equivalent, it's just equivalent. So that's what the equal sign is. So let's keep that in mind. So now to move on, I'm just gonna do some minus questions going from just small digits to bigger digits and learn how to get through those together. Okay, so here is my first question. 8 minus 4. Now, let's try to see if we know anything about 8 minus 4. So if we look through every thing in our brain, we rack everything down, we remember that 2 4s is 8. So that means that if you're just taking 1 4 away from 8, you'd be left with 1 4, because 2 4s make 8. I'll show you. In order to make an 8, you need 2 4s. We know this because we've watched other of my videos. And using that information that we know, we can use that to figure out that if we're only getting rid of one of these 4s, then you're left with 1 4. So therefore, the answer is 4. but that question is for babies. So let's move on to some tougher questions. Now here we have an odd number, which means it's not going to be as easy as finding the two numbers that make up that number. Although there are two numbers that make up 7, they're not the same. So in order to make this question easier, we're going to have to figure out what two numbers can make up 7. So let's go through our brains again, and if we already know this, then you can write it down. And if you already know it, don't say anything. Not that we can hear you, but don't say anything. Just get ready for your mind to be blown. So first thing you're going to want to do to find the answer is take this right here and apply it down here. This way you can just find out easily what number you're dealing with. So just put down a 3 here, and now add how many ever you need from 3 to get to 7. So let's see. If we add 3 and 3, that's 6. So now we have 3. 3 and 3 is 6. We know that because, again, we've watched my adding video. So 3 plus 3 is 6. We know that, but that's not 7. That's 1 off. So we're just going to add. So Santa is going to give us 1 more, and that gives us 7. So we used 1 3 and 1 1. So 3 plus 1 is 4. So we put the 4 here, and we figure out that the two numbers that make up 7 are 4 and 3. And we're getting rid of one of them, which in this case would be 3. So we're left with 4, which means our answer is 4. So that's kind of complicated, but if you do it enough, you'll get used to it. Anyways, now we're going to move on to double digits and then triple digits, and then I'm going to give you an assignment for today. Here are 2 more questions that we're going to do. Let's start off with 30 minus 15. We know that 30 is an even number. Therefore, when we split this up, the two numbers that make up 30 are going to be the same. So let's start off with this number right here, 15, and we'll put it right down there. Now, how many more do we need to get to 30? So first, let's add another 5, and that'll give us 20. So we used 1 5 so far. Okay, we know that if we add 10 more to 30, or add 10 more to 20, we will get 30. So if we, not plus 30, if we add, so 15 plus 5 we know is 20, and then plus 20 plus 10 we know is 30. So we have the 5 now, and we use the 10 too in order to get to 30. So we use the 5 and the 10, which means that 5 and 10 together make 15. So therefore, the two numbers that make up 30 are 15, and the answer is also 15. Now this is where things get really tricky. 160, which is 3 different digits, minus 80, which is only 2, because if we did 3 different digits, that'd be a pretty big number, and the question would probably take a while for us. So we're just going to go with this 3-digit minus a 2-digit number. So first thing we're going to want to do is we have to find out what two numbers make up 160, because it's even, so it's going to have two numbers make up 160. Now we're firstly going to place the 80 here to work off that, because that's what we got to do to figure out the answer. Now, what do we need to get to 160? Well, first of all, let's try getting to 100. And because we know 2 plus 2 plus 2, and eventually if we add 2 to 8, we'll get 100. That we know that if we add 20 to 80, we will also get 100. So there, and now we just need to get 60. But if we get rid of the 0, we can see that it's a 6. And what two numbers make up 6? 3. So therefore, to 100, we're adding 30 and 30, which is equal to 60. So now, using these two, we get 160. Now, what numbers did we add to in order to get this? We used a 20 here. We used two 30s. And now let's see what that gets us. So first of all, we're going to want to add the two numbers that we can easily add together, which are here, which we know 30 and 30, 3 or 3. 3 and 3 make 6 or 60. So we're going to add those together. So we know we have a 60. And now we need to add that by 20. But since we're smart, we know when you're going up by 2 and you add 2 to 6, you get 80. So therefore, 60 plus 20 will also get you 80. So we know we add that there. And the answer to the question is 80. Now you can rewind if you want to see that all over again if you didn't quite get it. But there you go. There's a simple way to do subtraction. And now I'm going to give you an assignment, and let's see if you can get them all right. Okay, now for questions. Question 1 is 6 minus 3. Question 2 is 8 minus 3. Question 3 is 16 minus 8. Question 4 is 32 minus, just a sec, is 32 minus, wait, not just 3, is 30. 32 minus 12. And finally, question 5 is 170 minus 90. Now, those last two are a bit tricky, but tell me if you got them in the comments below. Get somebody to check them for you, and maybe even just tell me your answers, and then I'll correct them myself. So now, if you want a bonus question, which is going to be really hard, but you can get extra points for it, here's 190 minus 110. There you go. There's your bonus question. So, tell me your answers down in the comments below, and I'll tell you whether you got them right or wrong. So, anyways, hope you've enjoyed this episode of school, and class dismissed.